Good evening, everybody. It's really nice to be here at Durham. I understand now, sometimes when people come to St. John's, they mutter about the vicissitudes of coming through rain and wind. My brother and I came up from Toronto. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't understand the numbers, these 6 digits. And despite it all, we're here in this beautiful gallery. So I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me, and it's a pleasure already. I'm dazzled by the beautiful fabric art in particular, and I'd like to begin with a few poems from my book, Mary Begot. These are little monologues. They're, the speakers are men, women, old, young. And the book itself tries to honor the vividness, the richness of Newfoundland speech. I'm talking about idiom and cadence. And this poem is called Mat. The very beautiful hooked mats made by women in Newfoundland and, of course, other places. Beauty made out of scraps, beauty made to serve a function. Mat. Some of them could go fast as the wind. Nell now, and she was a great hand at it, scrolls and squares and dogs and roses, and one time a red punt on the water. And then the scrubbing, dragging mats down to the cove in summer. We beat them against the beach rocks, and the salt water gave back their color. And come Christmas, out we went mummering, out in the fools, happy as kings, mat rags sewed into our clothes. A Mary Begot, what do you think a Mary Begot is? It's a word used in Newfoundland. Other words for the same concept are moonchild and moss child. A Mary Begot is a child born outside marriage, rather a more benevolent word than the conventional ones. Mary Begot. This book is a kind of Mary Begot itself. Mary Begot. Let's see what words. A pelt. Devil's pelt, pelt of a tripe, is a mischievous young person, usually boy. A nuzzle tripe is a misbehaving child. I think that's it. When the moon was newing and the night burnt black, some rapscallion, some young pelt, some nuzzle tripe set off down the path with the go of a born-again preacher, crept in under our apple tree, shinnied on up, swift and hungry as a starved mosquito, stripped it bare. And himself playing Don Juan in the kitchen, not a sound did he hear, no apples for winter, and from the look of her belly, a good chance of a Mary Begot. Some of the pieces in here are based on actual happenings, and the one I'll read next is, I shaped this story into a poem in part to record what had happened, but also because I was so struck by the lack of rancor, the acceptance of something that had happened. The story was told to me by relatives of the 2 men in this story. Winter coal. They trotted right up to the foot of the lane, cart piled with coal for the lightkeeper's shack. But the cousins said no crossing their land. So they turned round the horse and headed on back for the boat, loaded her up for the point. Jam-packed to the gunwales, she rode low in the water. A swift wind from the west, and over she went. Over she toppled, tossed them out in dark water. One of them got fast to the boat, held 6 hours to the side of her. His fingernails tore off of him. His brother's luck broke. She flipped him in first, and the coal down on top of him. These pieces, in these pieces, I hoped to capture the dark and the light of the traditional Newfoundland life. Lots of dark. This is another poem based on an actual incident as well. The Doctor. November and a snarling gale. Out they came in the small hours, 2 red little moon men, not the weight of a bag of flour between the pair of them. The doctor came after the midwife, eyed them both, barked out his verdict. Nothing to be done for them, was off in a flash. So they jammed the stove with junks to the damper, stuffed wool from the sheep in a drawer from the bureau, lined that nest with thick flannel, fed them like sick lambs with a dropper. 6 long months they captained that kitchen, steered those 2 little moon men to shore. And here's to all of us who are getting a little gray. And I'll turn from this book to another then. Spry. 84 and spry as a goat. He set 8 drills of potatoes this spring. His son just got on the construction, and he was looking to get on too. Yes, he's sharp as a tack, and he's a good hand to sing, knows 100 songs. Get him going, out they'll tumble. You'll hear him rattling, working one up, him leaning into the song, all 6 foot of him, his head full of tunes, feet tapping, eyes capering after the women. This is a kind of parable, I guess, a contemporary parable. It's got elements of the catalog poem, I guess. The Boat. It was quite the rigmarole. First, the report of the broken boat. Oh, I should say, there's a legend of a heavenly boat that comes down. It's an Irish legend, but I believe it's in other cultures too. It has been, the legend has been treated in a very different way by Seamus Heaney. No doubt there are yet other treatments. I dedicate this to any given Canadian municipality. The Boat. It was quite the rigmarole. First, the report of the broken boat found high and dry in a bed of petunias. Then the tale of how it had sailed down out of the heavens on a cold, rainy Tuesday, out of the great galvanized bucket of the heaving sky. Each of us knew what to make of it. The mayor proposed a stern letter be written. The councillor shuffled her ordinances. The police dogs searched it for drugs. The priest prayed for the drowned crew. The biologist listed the worms and the sea lice. The wood carver filled out some forms for the planks. The cameraman assembled his sepia filters. The psychologist warned of a wave of hysteria. The evangelist read signs of the pending apocalypse. The lovesick boy notched her name in the hull. The real estate agent cooked up a deal. The historian ransacked his files for parallels. The artist dreamt of a cottage conversion. The politician sized up the tourist potential. The carpenter said it was a big job to fix her. The hardware man boxed up all sizes of nails. The poet tossed off an exquisite ode. The ad man was sure he could mount a campaign. Axe in hand, the fire chief rose to the occasion. The pigeons were glad of a new perch. It was quite the ballyhoo. Then, while they were arguing among themselves, the boat lifted itself up out of their element into the blue, its battered planks clattering, its twisted keel an inward grin, and moved crazily on. Now, I'm not able to do as good a job at it as Anne Carson. If any of you have heard Anne Carson read, she engages her audience with quizzes and all kinds of goings-on. But I do have one form of poem in this book that does allow me to ask you to take part. I hope you'll play. There's a series of riddles in here. The sequence series is called I'm Bursting to Tell, Riddles for Conception Bay, but many of the riddles could be riddles for Durham, they could be riddles for Arthur or Elora or any of the lovely places we saw as we made our way here. So, if you wouldn't mind, I will read the piece. I might read it twice, but you have to say who the speaker is. Their inanimate objects are speaking for the most part. I'm the conduit of neighborliness. At my best, I'm hot-tempered. Alone, I grow cold. In my belly, I hold what will be a stream soon.
Kettle. Teapot.
Could be either. I had meant a teapot for the ceremony of tea, but people said kettle, so. I've got more pleats than a girl's skirt, and I'm the first to jump up for a dance. I fancy the swoop, the razzmatazz. Draw me out at a party, and I'm a real old smoothie. I'm on to the ins and outs of a tune, but I'm a touchy sort. Rough handling makes me squawk. My kind of crowd, yeah. Okay, okay. I am the blind one, the old brown one, knobbed and warty. In my dusty coat, the earth's eyes. In my cream innards, I hold a story of water sometimes a faint dark at my heart. Potato. Okay. Okay. Here's a contemporary object speaking. And the I in the first line is the capital, it's the pronoun, I, that little pillar of a word on the page. A collapsible I. I'm your very own tunneler, your private worm in the head. I've got your number. An absence license, I wheedle you into air, into the rushing elsewhere. A collapsible I. I'm your very own tunneler, your private worm in the head. I've got your number. An absence license, I wheedle you into air, into the rushing elsewhere. Cell phone. Cell phone. I have a lovely one about a credit card, but it's not with me. But you don't have the poem, so that's all right. Okay, I like this too much. Birds, boats, crops. In time, I've swallowed all. I've patted your baby's face, played hide and seek in your lilacs. You'd do well to mind me. Birds, boats, crops. In time, I've swallowed all. I've patted your baby's face, played hide and seek in your lilacs. You'd do well to mind me. Okay, this is the hardest one in the sequence. 4 workers, a boss. 4 workers, comma, a boss, semicolon. Sorry, colon. Colon. 4 workers, a boss, colon. 5 spinning, stealing the breath of the spinning one. Maybe it's, you know, I say it's the hardest, maybe it's the most poorly made, I don't know. 4 work, a car, that's pretty good. The 4 workers are the wheels, the boss is the steering wheel, and there are 5 spinning, and they're stealing the breath of the spinning one, the earth. Okay. Now, I'm going to, I'll finish with a couple from my, from my latest book. You can erase that, I'm sure. And I'm also, I don't know actually if I have enough for everybody, but in another context, I had actually made photocopies of 3 of these pieces. And when you see them, or when I tell you a little, you'll know why I'd like you to have copies rather than just have me read them. This is a project quite unlike my others. So if people could take copies and maybe share if they want to. You can keep those anyway. My latest book doesn't have, you could say it doesn't have a word by me in it. Does that mean it's a colossal exercise in plagiarism? That could be one way to put it, I suppose. I actually began making collage poems in response to a request by ARC Journal. I needn't go into, I solved the problem of what I would write on for them by making a collage, a surreal collage of, I made a 30-line poem from 30 poems poems by various poets, and I chose to have each line be the 30th line. I wanted the pieces to be syntactically correct. They had to be sentences. I made that, and then I became very interested in the possibilities of the form. I discovered in the process, by the way, that this is a very ancient form. I say centos. The ancient Greek word was kento. Some people say centos. They were made, people would take pieces of Homer, make passages put together as a kind of tribute to Homer or Virgil or some other poet. I think that this book is a kind of, it's a dirge or an elegy. I think it's an ecological statement, but it's a statement about distances between people and so on. Anyway, if you turn to the third piece, conscious of my time here, it's a piece called Appliqué. These three were first published in the Malahat Review, and this one shows up in Sue Goyette's issue of Best Canadian Poetry as well. Appliqué, that's the third one. You will find on the back of each of those the sources. I say there are no words by me. Of course there are words by me. The titles are mine. The poems are mine. The individual lines belong to each of the poets who made them. And the book itself is dedicated, it has this dedication, for the makers. And there are motifs of making and unmaking in the book. Okay. This appliqué consists of the first lines of 21 poems. First, having read the book of myths, they had begun to whisper, as imperceptibly as grief. Hearing the judge's well-considered sentence, the atom bellies like a cauliflower. Call it the refrigerator's hum at night. On the most beautiful day for airstrikes, the season is called evening. The buildings are at their stations, untimely. Here's the little dressmaker. It's like a tap dance, like appliqué on nothingness. Where did these enormous children come from? Children picking up our bones. Tell me the windows aren't really sweating. In their congealed light, there are portraits and still lives. A young woman looks nervously out of the picture. The mourners stand around the bed. In the hall of mirrors, nobody speaks of the miscellany. Now, I should perhaps have said, but I imagine it's obvious to you that the cohesion of these is tonal, is atmospheric, it's not narrative. I bumped into a comment online by someone about my poetry, a little brief, said, I really like Mary Dalton's poetry, but her latest book, I tried to read it and it's like falling down an elevator shaft. And I thought, yes, 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 that's it. Okay, so I'll finish with invitation cards. And these poems are also, there's a regularity of stanza form. There are various stanza forms, but there's a regularity. Again, the tension between disorder, alienation, distance, shift, decay, and some way of making that is suggesting a reaching for order. Invitation cards. The management, one by one, stumble from their cages, but without sound. The soul dwindles sometimes to an ant. Upright in rimless glasses, silver hair, they wait the chairman's praise and glass of water, medals and positioned victories. After how many years? However, the sky grows dark with invitation cards. Forget the rhetoric, the trick of lying, of flying like a bat deep into a narrowing tunnel stretching by the river. What was it? I have forgotten how to perform a funeral now that the sun, like a lion, licks its paws. Here, after a meager diet of horizon, is some scenery. Storms of flying glass, of the pen across the page. Another eye looking through a hole, half water. Hurroo, hurroo! Law is the one waited for history, its elbows tense, where serpent logs lay hissing at the air. Hurroo, hurroo is my favorite line in the book. Johnny, I hardly knew ye. Thank you.